And the holy grail of that somebody is willing to pay you for
Yeah.
something like that. If we could have done or solved that really cost effectively and in a scalable way without AI, we'd still be doing that.
Welcome to another episode of The Sprint, a live conversation on technology, business, and everything between. I'm your host, Hasnain Rizvi Rahman, founder and CEO Astha IT. Today, we'll be exploring the AI industry from a unique perspective of a Nordic startup. Over the past few years, the Nordic region has emerged as a hotbed of innovation and technology, making it a perfect breeding ground of impactful startups. Our guest tonight, Faisal, will share his experience in founding and growing a startup in the Nordic region, as well as his insights into the trends and challenges related to the AI industry. From the challenges of developing and scaling AI technology to the ethical consideration and data privacy, we will explore the factors that make the Nordic AI scene a very outstanding one and what the future holds for this rapidly evolving industry. That being said, I welcome Faisal Amin, co-founder and chief technology officer at Upsy, a fast-growing startup in Finland. Faisal, hi, welcome to the Sprint. How are you doing?
Hey, Hasnain, thanks for having me. I'm doing fantastic. Uh, Helsinki is looking beautiful at this time of the year. The temperature's looking around, it's nice and bright. It's sunny. It's looking around 15 degrees Celsius. Perfect. I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. It's not that pleasant weather over here in Dhaka. It's hot and humid, a perfect summer, in this tropical country, but it's enjoyable. We are enjoying. So, Faisal, let's begin by learning more about your product. So, what is UpSale?
Well, here's a one-line pitch. So Uspy is a shopping helper for web shop visitors. What the shopping helper does is it guides, educates, and helps during the shopping journey of any visitor for any web shop. Uspy Shopping Helper also assists with answering various questions about the shop and the products as well. It recommends relevant upsells and cross-sells, much like a lot of other services out there. If I put a different analogy, and usually I love to give this analogy, so a clearer picture is when you're imagining when you walk into a brick and mortar physical store, there usually is a salesperson assisting you, guiding you, helping you answer all your queries regarding products about the shop and whatnot, recommending products as well. That is what Upsy tries to emulate, but for web shops.
Wow. Yeah, interesting. Love it. So I want to go back even further, Faisal. So how did you come to be founding an AI startup in the first place?
Well, I like to think about it a little differently. Upsy started as a business first.
Okay.
AI is a byproduct of what we're trying to do and how we are trying to serve our customers. And this is something that I keep on preaching almost as an evangelist as well. It's like, think about what you're building, who you're building for. AI, not AI, becomes a little irrelevant and only an afterthought. Upsy's inception was with a mission of helping out web shop owners generate more revenue. That becomes a no-brainer. Whenever somebody opens up a web shop, their primary goal is to be serving customer needs and to be generating the top line revenue for themselves as well in the process. My co-founder, Juha Sulkikoski, is a serial entrepreneur and a successful one at that. He has witnessed while running this simple phenomenon, while running other ones of his companies. So during the pandemic, a lot of small and medium-sized web shops focused or had to focus their strategy more towards the digital end. They started pouring more and more money towards digital services, naturally, because brick and mortars were kind of like trying to decline. And that is exactly where you have noticed that, the small and medium web shops, they're pouring in money, yet they do not have the manpower or the expertise. And in a lot of cases that we noticed that, frankly, they don't even have the time to be working on assisting their web shop visitors. So they're doing a lot of hard work in bringing visitors to their store. But what happens after that? That is how UpSay's inception happened, is that, we found a lot of early traction in providing the tech capabilities to these merchants that the big companies and the big web stores, the enterprises, can really afford to build and also maintain with their in-house development and R&D teams. But we wanted to build something and run something at a fraction of that price and automate it as well. That is why when we started off, it definitely wasn't to create an AI company. It was to help small and medium web shop owners, and rather to solve a problem. AI really enhanced our journey and enhanced our service offering at a cost-effective rate and a scalable manner as well.
I love it, Faisal. So your approach has been very organic. You thought about the problem first, and you thought about the solutions and the way to solve the problem, and AI followed, which is very smart. So we're talking about the Nordic region, we're talking about AI, we're talking about Finland, where you are based out of right now. So I want to know, how has the local ecosystem impacted your business? Or in other words, how has the Nordic culture influenced your approach to developing and marketing AI products?
Well, I say this to a lot of people, and just to slightly backtrack on what you were saying, I'm glad we did it that way. And what I mean by did it that way, that we didn't start off thinking, hey guys, let's build an AI company or let's utilize machine learning, because of the sole fact that tech is always a byproduct of how you enable your business,
right?
Or how you enable any business. If nothing else, a business primarily is solving somebody's needs, and the holy grail of that somebody is willing to pay you for something like that. If we could have done or solved that really cost effectively and in a scalable way without AI, we'd still be doing that. But yes, coming back to what you were talking about, the Nordics, if I understand how the Nordic culture kind of influenced, I've been fortunate enough to have a career, or at least witness businesses running or growing or starting off across the US, a little bit around Bangladesh. You're based out of there. My origins are from there as well. And now eventually for me around Finland, a little bit around Sweden as well. But yes, the Nordic countries are perhaps one of the best places in the world to start a business, especially a digital one. And that is after after observing the Nordic business market about 4.5 to 5 years now. The culture, the people culture, the society is very open and trustworthy by default. That enables a lot of things to happen, especially when it comes to business. I've noticed another thing, for good or for bad, and I might be a little biased about it, but I might be wrong as well. So, a slight caveat when I say that. I've noticed around the Nordics that whatever usually gets said eventually gets done. So people innately place their trust, and trust is something that is to lose around the Nordics. The government, the startup communities, mentorship, go-to-market, early sales, public and even private funding infrastructure is constantly large and thriving. Of course, it has a lot of its downsides as well, much like two sides of every coin.
Right.
Pros heavily outweigh the cons. when it comes to running digital businesses, at least around the Nordics, or any business per se. In terms of developing and marketing our product or a lot of other products that I see, it was relatively easy to find a lot of early traction in the early days from our golden customers. And they are still our evangelists, thankfully, to this day. The early days of default trust, and I'm utilizing this word trust a lot because that certainly played a heavy role when we were starting off. And the markets, the generic markets' willingness to try new digital tools really helped us a lot in the early days.
Awesome. Yeah, I can totally relate, Faisal. So just so you know, I studied in Sweden. I did my master's in Sweden in 2007. So I was having flashbacks when you said what you just said now. So yeah, they're very trustworthy. They value trust. They love to trust other people. That's how they do business as well. Awesome. So going back to your product again, how do you differentiate your product from the competitors in the market? And I would love to know, how does your product cater to the needs and preferences of the market?
Well, that's a loaded one. It's making me think a little more.
Yeah,
than
sure.
usual.
Take your
But
time.
let me try and break it down the best I can. You see, when UpSy started off, there was, naturally, as every team kind of does, we did a lot of R&D, did a lot of like market research in terms of like, hey, is anybody else doing it? Is something existing in the market? Are we going up against any incumbents? That is already kicking ass when it comes to creating shopping helpers.
Yeah.
What happened? We were surprised that nobody was actually building shopping helpers about 2-3 years ago, as much. We certainly came across a lot of other people around the globe as well trying the same things, but they weren't bundling all the services together, much like we at UpSy were planning to do. I clearly remember there were a couple of companies, perhaps one around Singapore, maybe a couple around the States, and here and there. I don't exactly remember. But yes, when we came to that realization, we were like, well, are we stupid? There are only two possibilities, is that either you're a genius who's kind of like come up with something altogether, it's path breaking, or a lot of people have tried that in the past and they don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
So what are the learnings? But we felt pretty confident about what we were going after. And I think a lot of that confidence came from the pure fact that we knew who we were going to go out there and sell it to, because we heard it from our ICP, ideal customer profile. We kind of had pre-connections due to our past business servings to them. I was like, well, here's the case. We're hearing a lot of, we see that there's a need. We see that you guys probably want this. And that's when we started going out there and building it. But yes, while nobody else was doing it, in a cost-effective way as well.
Yeah.
We noticed that there is an underserved market in the SME web shop segment, and we really went after it. This underserved market, I clearly remember, was pretty hungry for AI-enabled products. One of the things we were talking to them was like, hey, Faisal, hey, Yuha, we really don't have the manpower to be onboarding a new SaaS tool, and then we really don't have a lot of time to be kind of like, babysitting or monitoring that tool. Can this run automatically? I was like, well, yes, of course. This will run automatically. So we kept a lot of focus. We tried to, of course, looking at hindsight, we could have been a bit more focused and a bit more laser sharp in who we're trying to serve. But I think we had a lot of learning. UpSy now operates across multiple languages, across multiple EU countries at the moment. And we've noticed that certain different markets have their own nuances and requirements. But that is to be expected, right?
Sure.
We constantly measure our NPS, our customer satisfaction level. And a lot of our backlog is heavily influenced by them, at least when it comes to conversations with them. That is how we try to differentiate. For us, I feel as long as you're making a lovable product of a lot of value to customers, they will stick. That is, I guess, our differentiator. We don't, competition's always there, but our focus is, or rather, are our customers.
Words of wisdom, Faisal. Very, very impressive journey you are having so far. So, how about some good things from you about the AI, about the Nordic space? Let's hear about not so good things now. So, what are the challenges that you faced running an AI company in a Nordic space?
Challenges. Well, a little backdrop as you graciously introduced me as well. I primarily at Upsy look after the tech and product. So one of the obvious things that stood out for me was like when we decided this is going to be, our service is going to be heavily machine learning oriented and data heavy as well.
Yep.
So machine learning, AI, nothing without data. I think perhaps the biggest challenge, if I look back, is the lack of talent when it comes to data and ML, especially, a little bit of disclaimer, we managed to secure our seed funding round January last year.
Okay.
Prior to that, when you are
congratulations.
Thanks. Thank you. That is a slight older news. It's been a year and a half, but we've been blessed to have investors who now only understand what we're trying to build, but also are very supportive of what we're trying to do and align with our mission as well. But yes, coming back to that. So prior to closing our seed round of 1.2 million euros, as it is without a lot of funding PR, when you're trying to bootstrap a company, talent attraction, at least in the Nordics, was relatively a nightmare, to put it mildly. Because I knew for a fact that whenever you're bootstrapping, you really want to bootstrap, you really want to validate at the same time, you're trying to rapidly iterate your product too. At the same time, headhunting becomes a nightmare. And to add to that nasty cherry on the top, if I, for lack of better terms, trying to find data engineers, ML engineers, data scientists was quite a challenge.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's a challenge for all of us everywhere. I understand that being very less populous countries over there, talent concentration is lower than other parts of the world, but it's a challenge nonetheless for everyone.
If I just
sure. Yeah.
Sorry to interject,
but sure, go ahead.
While being on that topic itself, it's I want to clarify, it always hasn't been the case that there is a supply and demand discrepancy. That is the case for like every other talent as well. It just feels more acute when it comes to data related talent. Plus, you and I know this for a fact that data related talent is not cheap to come by, especially when we talk about quality oriented data related talent. So, but yes, certainly the market has started over the past 12 months or so. I've started noticing that a lot of talented people, especially, started freelancing as well.
Right.
And they've started up and coming. But if I'm talking about like 2-3 years ago and whatnot, the situation was even dire.
Yeah, on this note, although this wasn't in my question list, but I'm curious. So you must be working with a lot of global and remote talents as well?
Yes, for the inception. I mean, yeah, 100%. That's the short answer.
Right.
I'm an immigrant. I've been an immigrant for at least 80-90% of my life. I know for a fact that talent has got to be distributed around the globe. regardless of wherever they're based off of. So whenever we bootstrapped UpSy up until we raised our funding and even beyond, even today as well, a policy has been 100% remote first. And the primary requirement for that and the primary driver for that decision is the fact that we want talent regardless of wherever they are around the globe, and good talent.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I have a few more questions about your product, Faisal. I'm very curious to learn more about it. So it's an interesting product. It's a shopping helper, serves the SME market mostly, I understand. So how do you measure the success? So what are the metrics that you use to measure the success of your product?
Well, yeah, there's from the get-go, our focus has been and still is our customers. I think we'll live and breathe our customers because whenever we always try to put ourselves in their shoes, starting off with product pricing decisions to how they're going to use it, are they using it, etc., etc., as is for a lot of other SaaS tools as well. Mm-hmm. And it aligns very well with our mission, which is to help web shop owners to generate more revenue. At the same time, we also cater to their store visitors as well. So in an essence, we're serving two parties. And UpSale behaves as a business as a B2B2C.
Right.
So we're primarily catering to B2B and also their B2C as well. Our North Star, is essentially the monthly revenue generated per customer that we go after. We succeed only when our customers succeed. And simply put, we make money when they do. Mm. And that gives us the final satisfaction, if nothing else. And that is why it's our North Star. Secondly, we also measure, being a SaaS tool, that how long does it take to onboard a customer? We're constantly striving to create and go towards a PLG model as well, in which customers self-onboard and have a seamless, smooth as silk kind of an onboarding experience. And so time to onboard every customer is one of the other metrics that we measure regularly. The experience that we put them through. So the NPS for every merchant. Apart from that, certainly we measure plenty of other micro engagement metrics across different UpSale journeys.
Cool, interesting. So Faisal, you have been in the US. You are now operating from Europe. I'm sure many of our audience will want to know from you. How is the startup dynamics in the Nordic region different from their North American counterparts?
Again, two sides to every coin. I really wouldn't be able to, say clearly which one's better. There are certain nuances across different markets or different regions, which clearly are better. Some better in the Nordics, and certainly some better around the States as well. One key difference, if nothing else, that I noticed is the level of government support and involvement when it comes to startups in the Nordic ecosystem. Nordic countries have a strong tradition, Nordic countries really have a strong tradition when it comes to government support for startups. That includes everywhere from company inception to operations, funding, mentorship, and a lot of other resources. So starting a company, operating one, there are plenty of public support and government support at every different level of the journey. This support has created a very thriving startup, economy, right, and a startup scene. especially when I think about verticals such as gaming, fintech, biotech,
Right.
and ever so recently renewables. So these kind of verticals tremendously benefited with government involvement and support. Another key difference that I notice is the emphasis on, when it comes to the Nordic startup and the ecosystem, that there's a lot of emphasis when it comes to social responsibility and sustainability. Pretty much every other Nordic company or startup that you cherry pick will talk about it, or at least is doing something around that. This is partly due to the region's strong welfare state,
right,
and people as a society and progressive values. Now, I'm not, trying to shit on the states. Of course, there's a lot of such good, incentives or steps taken towards that as well. But I've noticed dramatically more around the Nordics regarding that. There are plenty of other. One other thing kind of like stands up when it comes to differences in fundraising and investment. I've experienced directly and indirectly. So directly with UpSy, and indirectly, I have a lot of privileges and opportunities to talk with aspiring founders and aspiring startup teams. And the differences being that there are certain nuances and certain matters of inclusion and diversity that are rather a little better. I sometimes feel the Nordics operate a little more as a close community, slightly, a little bit, because the community is relatively a little smaller.
Yeah.
Trust travels
right,
a little more. Whereas in the States, I've probably just a tiny bit different in terms of being a little more open towards people of diverse backgrounds having access to funds.
right.
So I'll give the States a bit more or better edge when it comes to that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Faisal. I mean, as you said, I mean, there is always two sides of a coin. US is a bigger community, bigger industry, lots of diversity, and obviously it shows. Nordic is growing, as you said, it's close community, but it's niche as well. So it has its edge. Let's delve into some broader AI discussions. I would love to know about the ethical considerations that come with developing and using AI technology. To be very specific, have you faced any challenges or concerns from your clients regarding data privacy or security?
Hell yeah. Of course. Especially, we have to be very mindful that our company operates within EU. And
Right.
EU, for a lot of good reasons, champions GDPR and public data, private data as well. When it came to specifically UpSy, we knew from the get-go that we did not want to, or we try to stay as further away as possible from gathering and processing private data. Now, see, there's not only ethical considerations put into place, but there's also operational considerations that need to be put in place. If I'm talking about like the ethical considerations that we think about, what do we collect? How do we collect? Where do we store? Most importantly, can we even collect certain data points? And these become very, very important questions for us.
Right.
And eventually define how good or how bad our product or service is eventually going to perform. As is very well known in the world of AI, that if AI or your machine learning models are the engine, then data is its fuel.
Sure.
And if you put garbage in, pretty much guaranteed to get garbage out as well. So, GIGO. And data privacy and security is a constant, it's constantly crucial, regardless whether our company is using AI or not. And I'm glad we do not need, at this very moment, or collect personal data.
Okay.
And at UpSy, we take it very seriously, and we take GDPR very seriously as well. We've managed to build our solution so that it does not use any cookies, nor does it collect any end user data from the web store of the visitors. All our cloud data centers are based within the EU, and whatever we collect in terms of data is pretty generic. So we're good on that.
That's a very interesting technical considerations that you have made while designing your software. Interesting. So now I'm going to ask you my bomb question. I have been waiting for this, from the very beginning. So in the past, we did not have ChatGPT. Now we do, right? And this is conquering the tech world like wildfire. What challenges are you facing, addressing, adopting, or even competing with this OpenAI product? and do you even think ChatGPT can potentially make your product obsolete?
Hassan, if I got a penny for every time I heard ChatGPT over the course of the last 6 months or so, I think we'd be millionaires right now. There not a day or an hour goes by where people, like-minded entrepreneurial people, are really not talking about ChatGPT, and for good reason.
Yeah.
But when I'm thinking around that, well, when it comes to this topic, I only see plenty of opportunities, and not only in terms of ChatGPT, but also all the other big enterprise companies coming out with their own large language models, or LLMs. I see lesser challenges, so more opportunities and lesser challenges. And let me elaborate what I mean by that. You see, ChatGPT is phenomenal. I'm in love with it. I'm pretty certain that you've tried it, or at least, if not on a regular basis, you at least love interacting with it, much like I or a lot of other people. We're seeing plenty of products being built on top of ChatGPT. That's how I see it, or at least they're trying to leverage some other open source language models. There are, a lot of large language models that are coming out, which are open source and will be open source as well. Every company on God's earth, green earth right now, is either an AI company or going to become an AI company. Now, what I mean by that is the fact that AI will be part and parcel of our daily lives in each and everything that we interact with, at least in the digital sphere, if nowhere else. But coming to what my core philosophy is, the majority of these companies are actually solving a pain or a problem for some other segment of customers out there in the world.
True.
I'll give you an example. ChatGPT comes out. ChatGPT, along with DALL-E, is very, very good at creating recipes or generating recipes for your dinner, or creating a meal plan for you over the course of next 10 days or X amount of time that you want. It'll give you the ingredients. It'll even, with using DALL-E, it'll even draw you a picture of the proposed meal. But, and I might be wrong, and I'm going to probably bite my tongue in this one, but ChatGPT does not take out Instacart as a company. What ChatGPT rather does is that they collaborate with Instacart, and they create a plugin.
Right.
So businesses will tremendously benefit from this technological advantage, and they'll try to grow leaps and bounds with generative AI. But I don't see how core language models will actually be businesses. So we too are no different. And when it comes to leveraging this tremendous power of generative AI in some format or the other, do I really think it'll make our product obsolete? It'll be a little hard for me to predict, given that, it feels like every hour when I log into Twitter, something or the other, is being disrupted or is being created. And it also gives me a lot of optimism and hope that whenever something technologically improves, that we'd be able to leverage that and bundle our service and improve our service for our end customer. I always have an optimistic approach to that. And I think we've also managed to build a moat around the survivability by solving an actual business problem.
It's a very interesting take, Faisal. So I'm actually happy to find out that you are one of those people I met who do not think ChatGPT as a threat, rather as an empowering technology or a tool. That's interesting. So just two more questions I have. So how do you see the AI industry evolving in the future, especially in your region? And what role do you hope to play in that evolution?
Yeah, I just mentioned a little while ago that AI is going to be part and parcel. The era of sci-fi is already here. AI is just going to be part and parcel of every business. And then it's going to touch our lives in probably every sphere of digital products and services, at least if not directly this year, over the course of next 5 years for sure. I can only hope and optimistically hope, that the Nordic startups play a significant role in that, and certainly that Uspy 2 is a big part of that. The landscape around machine learning as a service will be vastly, vastly expanded, and we'll notice a gigantic surge in demand for such professionals. As is, there is a significant gap, as we were just talking about, when it comes to data and data professionals, and the talent will be more and more sought after.
Right.
I'm really glad science fiction is coming true in our lifetime, and I'm only very excited that, I'm not only being able to witness that firsthand, but also being a part of it at some level or the other, in terms of, I really hope that I'm a big part of, when it comes to AI or generative AI as well, that I get to play a role when it comes to different businesses building our products and services, recruitment, matchmaking, perhaps some seed level funding as well, when the team and the opportunity comes right. But let's see.
I hope you do. So we have come to the conclusion of our episode for tonight. Before we end, I'd like to ask Faisal one last question. What advice would you give to another entrepreneur looking to start an AI business?
Well, there's plenty. I can go on perhaps for hours, but I'll try and summarize that for at least one point, if nothing else. That when you're thinking of starting an AI-based business, put 99% of your focus in building a business first, which fundamentally, again, at its core means that creating something of value for somebody out there who is willing to pay you some money in exchange for that service or product. Oftentimes, whether AI is a part of that or not becomes a little secondary. Oftentimes, I talk to a lot of, or at least I come across a lot of founders who get really excited by these new tools that coming out and try and create a product, but fail to think about or fail to do or formulate that sales around who am I creating this for? I should perhaps go out there and even talk to them. Let's see whether they're willing to even pay for that. And there's nothing wrong in trying to go ahead and create something first. Discovery is always very exciting, and you never know whatever sort of path-breaking product you might come across as. But yes, to summarize, focus on creating business value first.
Thank you so much.
Everything else will follow.
Yeah, thank you so much. Very inspiring and spot on, Faisal. I would like to thank you, Faisal, for being on our show, for giving us your valuable time. I wish you all the best with your future journey with UpSale and all the endeavors that you plan to pursue. Thank you so much. And to our audience, see you again with another episode of The Sprint. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Rizvi.